Today is one of those days that the thoughts in my head to just quit it all, to hand the reins of the nonprofit over to somebody else, to get off social media and just get a job and kind of like disappear back into the background. And that comes up periodically, and I don't think that it's right or wrong. I don't think there's, I honestly don't think it's what I'm going to do. Those impulses get there, just because sometimes being close to the work is the problem. It'd be one thing if I worked in whatever in a school system that had no personal memories or personal trauma for me. But having somebody come through the reentry class and then lose their way and end up back in a bad spot. Watching one of the kids at the juvenile detention center get in trouble and kind of like fall back on old ways and realizing that they're not all going to make it. That's tough. There are personal things that go on too, but being connected to that, watching these kids that I care about, watching these people that I care about not do well, or watching other people in the community get involved in ways that end up with them locked up or dead. It's just tough. But I don't know. I mean, it's the thing that I know and it's the thing that I'm passionate about. And I think there's a way to find balance to, find other work, find other avenues. And some of the things that I'm looking at doing, like pitching, this reentry program that could have something where I wouldn't be hands-on with everybody, but that's also where I fill my cup. And that's why it's such a struggle, because it's working with people one-on-one that I feel the greatest sense of like meaning and accomplishment and purpose. But it's also there where I feel the greatest sense of like hopelessness and frustration when, one of them makes a bad decision or goes the wrong way. And I know in my mind that not everybody's going to make it, that I can't be responsible for another person's decisions, that all I can be is a resource or I can help create opportunities. But like I said, it's tough. It's tough to not become invested in that person. And I think about parents. Like, parents are the ultimate heroes if they do it right. Like, if they do everything for their kids, but they cut that line and they don't take responsibility for their kids' actions, and they teach their kids how to make their own decisions, and they like create fully functioning like autonomous beings, and then they let them live. Like, that is an accomplishment. And I don't think we give enough credit to parents that do that, because we have this idea that parenting is just showing up for people or just putting food or shelter over their heads. And like, a parent who really creates a child, who like builds a structure that allows a child to grow and make their own decisions and grow in healthy ways, is just amazing. So that's kind of the mindset that I have, because I don't think that I'm going to have kids. I remember when Courtney and I were together, everybody used to ask, oh, are you going to have kids? And for the longest time I was inside, I thought I wanted. I used to read parenting books. I used to prepare. I was like, I want to be able to be a good dad. I want to be able to show up and be the best parent I can. But I don't know. I got out and it just felt so different. The world feels so big and overwhelming that I didn't know how to even consider like being responsible for another human being entirely. So I've tried to find people to mentor and people to work with, and I find ways to build relationships where I can have that kind of role. I can be the uncle to a friend's kid, or I can be, a mentor to somebody who needs it. But there are times where I feel so overwhelmed still that I don't feel like I'm in a position to be a mentor. It took me, 16 years in prison to like really be in a position to be a good mentor in prison, maybe 15. And I probably could have done it before then, but it took living in that place and really getting to know it and building my routine and knowing how to function in that environment to be able to help others do the same. And I've only been out for like 19 or almost 20 months. And I forget that sometimes, because it feels like forever that I've been out here and that this is the only world I know. It really almost was like waking up from a bad dream. But I forget that I still lived like almost my entire adult life in prison and not out here in the world. So when I struggle with things, or when I face new challenges, or when I kind of like stumble, or when I don't know how to get through something, I feel like it's a failure on my part, and I really internalize that. And I forget that this is new and it's different and it's scary and it's hard. And I don't know. I think I am doing pretty well. Like, I think intellectually, but that doesn't mean I feel that emotionally. And it's tough because I can give all the best advice in the world to other people. Like, people will come to me, couples will come to me, like anybody you can think of will come to me and say, hey, how do we do this? Or what do you think about this? And I'll share an idea or experience, and it probably doesn't work for everybody, but I get a really consistent response that what I say or what I share is helpful. But applying the same thing in my own life is so hard. And in that like sterile, almost monastic environment of prison, I was able to do it because I had no distraction. Like, I didn't have a cell phone buzzing. I didn't have like people calling and saying, hey, come out, or hey, do you want to do this? I was just there. And just being there, like, originally the thoughts and the just a loneliness, I guess, was crushing. But eventually it became liberating. It's like that roar became kind of a quiet din, a quiet like, rumble or something. I began to be able to sit in that. And it really, it meant a lot. It meant a lot to be able to actually sit with my feelings and actually sit with not having any other choices or options but to look inside, to introspect. And that was how I got to where I was. That was how I got to a place of peace, because I didn't have all those other distractions. And it's like every time you add one thing, it gets more complicated. But when you add an entire world full of things and people and opportunities and being pulled in different directions, it really does. And there are times that I just want to go back to that simplicity. And I don't know how to do it. Like, what do I do? Go to a cabin in the woods on the weekend? Like, that would probably be good. Like, go have a meditation retreat or go have some kind of just time in the woods. But I've been trying to do that. I've been trying to like take time and just sit on this couch and read at night, rather than going out, or rather than, I really don't watch TV, but rather than like playing on YouTube all night or something, and figure out how to like really recenter myself, how to come back. And I think it's also frustrating because it's the little things that don't normally bother me. Like when I'm in a good place or when I'm resourced, I don't care if somebody leaves hate comments or leaves troll comments. Things like that don't bother me. But when there's like already kind of like a nudge or a crack in the armor, right? Like when there's kind of a crack in like how good I feel about myself or self-esteem, or in that moment, it just like gets a little bit wider. And sometimes it's just like a rush of, people saying nasty things, or just problems that are going on, or interpersonal conflicts that have nothing to do with work, but are just, people that I care about. I have a really good friend who I'm kind of like estranged from right now because of a conflict that I don't fully understand. I don't really understand what happened, and like their experience of what happened is very different than mine, and it hurts because it's like these are people that I care about, and I have some good people in my life. I have some really good people in my life. I don't know. Sometimes I just kind of get stressed out, and I revert to that little kid version of myself that wants somebody to take care of me, or wants somebody to make it all okay, or all those things I think we can all relate to, but that ultimately we know we can't do. And I'm really grateful that I've been in the situation that I've been in, because I just watched somebody else go through a really terrible situation and just jump right into the same thing again. And it's hard to break those patterns, and that's really what I'm trying to do. And I realize that I have a lifetime of patterns to break. I have a lifetime of things to work through. And, some moments are really inspiring. Yesterday was amazing. I had to meet with Josh, who was my treasurer, who, he's the success story. He was in the juvenile system. He was struggling. He got out, he worked a job, but he figured like that was it. Like we could do that. Somebody told him to go to college. He went to college. He got a finance degree. He started making all this money. He's been incredibly successful. He just started his own company. He moved overseas. Like he's lived this wild, crazy life, coming from the most humble, kind of challenged of origins. And he brought this guy around yesterday who's been mentoring for the last couple of years, who's the same thing, who like grew up in really troubling circumstances, who was out in the streets, was getting in trouble, was in and out of juvie, in and out of jail, in and out of prison, and now is going to a 4-year university, just applied to Stanford and MIT. Like we don't know where he's going to get in, but his story and what he's doing and what he's accomplishing are amazing. And being around those people really does. It makes me feel good. But it's funny because it's a twofold thing. Because a lot of times people who are locked up will still send me like emails, or I'll get letters. Actually, I have 2 letters I need to read now. And they'll be like, man, we appreciate what you do. Like, you inspire us. This is going to be good. But then when I see those other people, I'm like, man, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. Like, I haven't applied to go to Stanford for this. I haven't applied to, do my graduate program somewhere. And it's amazing how once I get into that mindset of being inspired, but also somehow comparing, like that inspiration can turn into self-judgment and self-loathing and, all those things that happen. And it's just amazing how, like I said, when I'm not resourced enough, when I'm not rested enough, when I'm not taking care of myself, how these little things can, seem out of proportion. And somebody sent me when my grandfather died last week, which was still pretty hard. Somebody sent me a cartoon that really meant a lot. That was like, hey, you're not overreacting because this is how it is. And it shows a person carrying one thing and then carrying another thing and then carrying another thing. And then it's that feather, it's that tiny thing that breaks your back. And that's really what it was. And losing my grandfather wasn't a feather. It was pretty heavy. But it just let me know that carrying on and carrying all those things with me isn't the best option, that I have to stop and I have to put them down and I have to stop and take better care of myself, and that doing the kind of crusading or doing the work that I'm trying to do is great and it's important, but it's not going to do anybody any good if I don't stop and take care of myself. And that's a struggle. So it's a beautiful Saturday morning. I already went. I did my little workout. I did yoga. I haven't done yoga in forever. And I didn't do yoga today. I used to do it to like really strengthen myself and stretch myself and do everything like that. But today I just did it to try to relax and center myself. And someone just asked if I think that comparing myself is in some ways about making up for lost time. And I think that, yeah, there's something to that. I know intellectually that those years are lost, that I can't get back those 19 years. And that it's not even about like deserving to or should, because like I put myself in that position. I created a tremendous amount of harm to go there, and I accept that. At the same time, yeah, I mean, there are a million things that I miss. And I realized, I was talking to somebody last night who said, I had 30 years to do whatever I want and figure out who I am. Like you've had, not even 19 months. Like you haven't even had that time because you've been in a relationship, you've been in this situation, you've had these bounds on you or whatever. And I realized that. And it's hard to grow up and figure out who I want to be and not compare myself in unrealistic ways. When I was at South by Southwest, I met this 22-year-old venture capitalist, like incredibly successful, smart kid, like on top of things, doing the top of his game. And there was a part of me that was like, hey, why haven't I done this? Like, why haven't I figured out a way to, get into venture capital, get into this, or why haven't I started a company? I mean, the people I met out there were so extraordinary. I mean, these would in many cases look like kids, but people of all ages who were like, oh yeah, by the way, I was knighted by Queen Elizabeth. I was this, and it's just like, who am I and what am I doing here? But then I realized like, they've had different environments and they've had different times. And that even if I'd been in the exact same place, we're still different people. And that somebody's destiny or somebody's role isn't going to be my own. And I have to remember that because I struggle. Because every time I see somebody that I admire, I want to be like them. I want to follow in their path, because that's what I've done my whole life. It's like I followed in the path of the wrong people. So when I decided to really turn my life around, I said, I'm going to find the winners. I'm going to find the people who are doing something good or doing something meaningful. And I just want to do what they do. But I, at the same time, haven't done that enough. I've done that really well in prison. Like I got to be a good mentor. I got to be a good tutor. I got to be a good workout partner. I got to be a good, these things in that role. But I haven't done that out in the world. And now I'm trying to figure out what that looks like. And trying to figure out if, do I do this full time? Do I do reentry where I'm working with people one-on-one full time in a way that just like I end up both filled sometimes and just completely exhausted and torn apart? Or do I go do venture capital and try to raise enough money to like have money to lobby and change this? Like, I don't know. I just really don't know where the biggest impact is. And there are days, especially with the nonprofit, like if things go badly or if people don't show up to the reentry class or like I'm not seeing the results that we're trying to create. And I absolutely know that all I can do is the next right thing and let go of the result. But I don't remember that all the time. Like I don't feel that sometimes. And there's a part of me that says, I should have just gone out and started a business. I should have started an electrical company. I should have started a power washing, anything, and hired people getting out of prison, given them a concrete base, like giving them a place to start, help connect them with resources through that. And in some ways, I think that would have been more impactful, or at least in those individual lives. What I like to do, or what I like to believe, is that one day the work that I'm doing now will be impactful to a broader range of people. And I get letters and I get DMs and I get emails and I get text all the time from people who say that what I'm doing is important. It's just hard to remember that sometimes, and it's hard to compare that because I'm one of those people. I still come from that place of like transactional work. Like I want to see something. Like my two favorite jobs when I was growing up, and I did web design, I did all kinds of crazy stuff. I had like weird internships, but were framing houses and working at a restaurant. Because at the end of every day, I got to see what I had made. I got to see, what we had put on that house. I got to see the house come together. I got to see what was literally a hole in the ground become a home that someone would live in. And at the restaurant, I got to plate someone's food. I got to cook their food. I got to get compliments to the chef or compliments to the line cook. I got to go out there and watch and, wipe my hands on my apron and see people smiling as they ate the food that I made. And there was something so meaningful about that, about seeing what I was producing, seeing it immediately and seeing the impact that it had on people. And that was really wonderful. And it's hard to do that in other places. And sometimes I do, one of the things that made me cry this week, I was talking about Brian Stevenson. I went to go see him at John Paul Jones Arena, came to talk. And he's been one of the people that's inspired me. Like I watched Just Mercy in prison. I read his stuff in prison. Like I was looking up to him as one of those people who can make an impact on the world. And it just inspired me to do more with my life. And I made a video about that. One of my buddies who was locked up, who just got out, very recently, was like, bro, I was looking at you on TV and feeling inspired because I think he saw the story where we did the fundraiser or the story where we did something else. And it meant the world to me to know that I had that impact on that one person. And now he's leading he's the chapter head for an entire Virginia advocacy group. Like he's in a great position. He's making a good salary. He's going to be able to make a positive impact. And it's not that I did that, but it's that I had a part in his story. And that's really what I want to know. I want to have a positive part in a bunch of people's stories. If I can figure out a way to do that, it makes me feel good. But I also have a lot of self-doubt around that. And I also have a lot of, whatever. So I think it's just one of those mornings where I wake up and I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling under-resourced. And I haven't been making the best decisions to take care of myself. but I have, seen some really good places and some really good people. And so I just need to stop and kind of reflect on that and let it sink in so that I can show up and be my best self, tomorrow or the next day or with whatever program or whatever meeting or whatever mentorship I'm involved in, because I want to make sure that I can have that positive impact, and I have to stop and take care of myself. So it's a beautiful Saturday. I'm gonna go shoe shopping later because these are my Costco shoes, and apparently you're supposed to have tread on shoes, and I didn't realize that. And that was how I rolled my ankle in DC. So I'm gonna go shoe shopping. I'm gonna do a couple other things and figure it out. All right, I hope y'all have a wonderful day.